Welcome everyone to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite's Summer Blockbuster 2025, even though summer is still a couple of weeks away. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. We do have the All In Texas pay-per-view event coming up in just about a month. AEW is starting to build up for that show. We opened up this 4-hour extravaganza with Hangman Page arriving to the arena, receiving a pep talk from Christopher Daniels. Daniels tried to tell Hangman that he needs to rectify his problems with people in the locker room because he cannot fight the Death Riders all by himself. And sure enough, as Page walked into the building, the Death Riders were walking behind him. They were stalking him. More on that in just a little bit. And yes, I'm not recapping the entire summer blockbuster 4-hour show. It's too much. And I'll tell you why. They're not really putting much stock into the second 2 hours. That was something that I was considering a few weeks ago. Would they actually save their biggest segments for the end? And the answer is most certainly no. They opened up the show with the most anticipated match/segment of the entire 4 hours. Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay in a rematch from Forbidden Door last year. If they had put this on last, I would have stuck it out for the 4 hours. Mercedes Moné is on my screen right now. Maybe I should have waited a few minutes. Maybe not. I don't know. I was considering it, but then I thought I'm just going to go ahead and recap 60% of the show. But I do have it on the Mercedes segment. She's doing commentary for Toni Storm's match. We'll probably get some sort of angle. She has another table set up. Last week she was eating steak. She's got another fancy dinner. They're basically repeating what they did last week. There you go. All right. Let's talk about Ospreay versus Swerve. And Lone Star says you can skip Moné. There you go. We had a lengthy match between Swerve and Ospreay. You always know it's going long when they do the feeling out process in the beginning of the match. Somewhere in these first couple of minutes, Ospreay's nose got busted open. He was bleeding, and he kept checking on his nose during the match. It was a very good match. Swerve dominated early on, and then Ospreay started to build momentum, but he missed the hidden blade. He did hit a hidden blade, but he went through the ropes and connected with Swerve on the outside of the ring. Back in the ring, Swerve actually used Page's Deadeye, went for the stop, but Ospreay avoided it. He hit another hidden blade, this time in the ring, but Swerve kicked out. They traded blows. Swerve regained the upper hand, hit the house call kick, came off the top with the Swerve stop, but Ospreay kicked out. He went for another house call kick, which Swerve avoided. Swerve hit the hidden blade again, Stormbreaker, but guess what? Another kick out from Swerve. Then he tried the Tiger Driver, but Swerve was able to counter that with a Vertebreaker. And then Swerve went for the stop, and the time limit expired. Now, I did not even think about the time limit at all until they brought it up during the last minute. And then I'm like, oh, they're going to end on a time limit draw. Whatever. I know it was a common thing in the 1980s, but I didn't like them back then. I didn't like them in the 80s when Ric Flair would do them. I was never a fan of time limit draws. I know it can build up both guys as evenly matched and it can set up for a future match between them. I'm just not a fan, personally. To me, it's the equivalent to a DQ. It's just basically saying the whole thing you watched was really for nothing because there was no resolution. I don't like them. It's my own personal opinion. I know some people love them, think it adds to a storyline. And I guess the idea here was that they have more respect for each other because they went to the time limit draw. Whatever. Swerve got on the microphone. They always do this. Every single time they want more time. And before we could potentially have the match restarted, we had the Death Riders show up. And the Young Bucks attacked Swerve. They handcuffed him. They hit him with multiple super kicks. And then they brought out these spiked shoes. They were going to get some payback from Anarchy in the arena with the spiked shoes. But then Will Ospreay ran into the ring and literally took the bullet for Swerve. He took the blow of the spiked super kicks. So yeah, this furthers the bond between Swerve and Ospreay. I'm sure we're getting blood and guts at some point, and that's what this is all going to eventually set up. I liked everything except for the time limit draw. Beyond that, I thought it was a good segment to set up blood and guts or whatever is coming at some point. I mean, I think we all know eventually Swerve and Adam Page will be working together. I thought it was a solid segment overall. Now, back to Mercedes Moné. Toni Storm got attacked before her match with Julia Hart, and they were checking on her, and she got in the ring, and the match is going on with Julia Hart. My gut feeling is, here, you guys get a little bit of a watch along. The match is on right now. Mercedes is all happy. Julia Hart is in control. I mean, Toni Storm's going to win, right? This is just, build up for Toni and Mercedes. They got 30 days to kill. A little bit of a watch along, but let's get back to the Dynamite portion of it. I'll comment on it. I have it on the TV right now, so if anything crazy happens, I'll comment. Mercedes is on her phone right now, just texting away. There you go. Toni's starting to make a comeback. All right, we had Okada backstage. Now, here we go. Contract signing for Okada versus Omega at All In, even though they already announced it last week. So you have the advertising and you're doing a contract signing for a match that you've already confirmed. Okay. Omega was approached by Don Callis, and Don Callis is pissed because he wanted Kyle Fletcher or Takeshita getting the title match. And then the Don Callis family came in and Okada called him a bitch. So I guess Okada is a babyface now because he's defiant against the Don Callis family, but we'll talk more about that later. We had the Hurt Syndicate attacking Commander backstage, and they ripped off his mask. So that's setting up MJF versus Mystico, which takes place next week in Mexico. We had Mystico, formerly Sin Cara, versus Blake Christian. It was a basic match here. It was fine. It's just building up Mystico. You had Blake's tag team partner, I don't even know his name, interfering, which allowed Blake to get in a little bit of offense, but ultimately Mystico picked up the win with the Spanish Fly. And then after the match was over, we had the Hurt Syndicate coming out there to confront him. MJF got on the mic. He said he's looking forward to ripping off the mask of Mystico. He said he's going to dust off his red, white, and blue ring attire for next week's match. His flag dropped down. The streamers were out and about in the arena, in the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon. Well, it's the Theater of the Gods, whatever they call it. It's basically the Moda Center, but they have it configured for a small crowd, a theater setting. It's the Moda Center just with tarps, basically, and curtains. But anyways, MJF got in the ring, and then Mystico spoke, and he talked in Spanish. He said something about MJF's mother, And that just set off MJF, and he referred to Mystico as Sloppy Sin Cara, a little reference to Botch Cara from back in the day. A fight broke out. Hurt Business got in the ring. They were going to rip off the mask, but then Speedball, Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Mascara Dorado all ran down to make the save. They all hit stereo dives, and then that set up a 6-man tag team match. MVP was out there on commentary, and MJF had MVP-inspired ring attire, which got "You Look Stupid" chants from the fans. Good guys did fine when they were in there with MJF, and then Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin tagged in. They dominated. MJF tagged back in and then was struggling. And at this point, the good guys started to build up some momentum. But then MJF took a cheap shot using his cane to Mike Bailey. MJF capitalized and got the 1-2-3 victory. Match was fine for what it was. And then afterwards, they continued their attack. MJF took off the mask of Dorado, and then Mystico ran out there, made MJF tap out to his arm submission, which was interesting. I suspect MJF will win in Mexico and get some heat, but we'll see. Match was fine, but wasn't all that great. I don't care too much about this. You know, it's just they're doing the Mexico show. MJF's one of their top heels, so they're playing that up. What's funny is when MJF brought up the red, white, and blue, he was getting booed by the American fans. It should be fun because MJF's going to get a lot of that heel heat in Mexico. It'll be a fun atmosphere. But I feel like he's going to win. He tapped out here to Mystico to set up the match. Now, we had what was supposed to be a Hangman Adam Page promo, but the Death Riders had tied him up, and they put tape around his mouth. They dragged him into the ring. Moxley cut a promo and said he's terribly sorry about the situation. He said the people need Page to be focused. Page has 4 weeks to step up and become the man that everybody wants him to be. And if he can't, he needs to pack his shit up and walk away. Page got pissed about this. He headbutted Moxley, but he was very much outnumbered. They put a chair around his neck, and then the Ops, Samoa Joe and company, ran down there to make the save. They untied Page and took off the tape. Page cut a promo and said he is going to ride through the death to take back the AEW World title. And he said he was going to take their heads if he finds any of them by the end of the evening. As of now, I don't think there's been any follow-up on it, but maybe in this last hour we'll get something. I don't know. We had a tag team match, women's match at 9:30. Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford against Ty Mello and Anna Jay. Now, this was interesting because Ty Mello just returned, so I'm figuring, well, she's not going to lose her first match back. But at the same time, they're really trying to push Megan Bayne as something special. So what do you do here? Megan did dominate a good part of it when it was her in there. And Ty and Anna were able to work together. But then Penelope did a moonsault to the outside onto both Ty and Anna. And then back in the ring, Megan was on the verge of winning the match, but then Penelope wanted to tag back in. And Megan Bayne was the stupid heel, turning her back on Anna, and Anna choked her out. And then Ty was able to take advantage. She knocked out Penelope Ford and got the 1-2-3 victory. It was fine for what it was. I didn't really have a problem with it. At least it's the stupid heel. And update on the live watch along. Big shocker. Toni Storm just picked up the win over Julia Hart. No shock right there. Mercedes was sipping her wine just like she was last week. I mean, it feels like the same exact segment as last week with Mercedes out there at the dinner table. All right, so next up, we had a video package hyping up Kenny Omega versus Okada at All In Texas, showing all of their moments in Japan. Video package was good. It's not at the level of the WWE video packages, and also this is a bit controversial, I'm sure, for some, but I didn't really get into those matches like the Dave Meltzers of the world and the New Japan enthusiasts. They were great matches, but I just don't have that kind of emotional connection to their matches. So I didn't really care about it all that much. It didn't bring a tear to my eye or anything, but it was a good video package. I'm sure that the people that loved those matches thought the video packages were great. Tony Schiavone hosted the contract signing. You know how I feel about contract signings. Ooh, hold on. Mercedes is getting a little touchy-feely with Tony. Oh, she just attacked her. She acted like she was going to kiss her, and then she dropped her. Now she's beating the crap out of her. Mercedes is turning up the violence just a little bit on timeless Toni Storm. Here comes Mina Shirakawa to make the save. There you go. For those of you that wanted watch-alongs from me, you're getting a little bit of a watch-along right now. And there we go. Mina has Toni in her arms, very dramatically holding her up against her breast. Oh, wait, here comes Mercedes Moné attacking Mina Shirakawa. Stupid babyface Mina, not paying attention to Mercedes Moné. What a dummy. And now Mercedes Moné is back to attacking timeless Toni Storm. And now she's holding up her title. So yeah, Mina's just an idiot. I don't know why they didn't just end the segment with Mina making the save instead of making her look like a fool, not paying attention to Mercedes Moné. She's doing her all dramatic, got her up here. And then, yeah, Mercedes just attacks her. Dumb. All right, let's get back to the final segment of the Dynamite portion of this. We had she got low there. Mercedes got low. All right. Good for her. Toni Schiavone, too many Tonys. Vince McMahon will not approve. Oh, Ricochet is being interviewed backstage. So, man, Ricochet is now demoted to the end of the third hour on this 4-hour broadcast. Poor Ricochet. All right, let's talk about the contract signing. I can't hear what Ricochet's saying. All right, he's being confronted by, is that Blake Christian? I guess they're trying to do the faction storyline. Ricochet's looking for a faction. Why would he pick these guys? I don't know. I don't even know who the other guy is with Blake Christian. But yeah, I guess they're trying to get in his group, even though they just lost earlier in the show. I don't know what this is about. Don't care. All right, let's get back to the contract signing, finally. So they have a new title. Let's talk about that new title. The international title and the continental title are being merged, but it's not the intercontinental title. That's a WWE thing, although I think New Japan has an intercontinental title. But nonetheless, the name of this unified title is the unified title. I don't know if they're coming up with something else. Doesn't really sound like a great name. The title itself looks fine. I'm not a belt guy, so I don't really care that much. Like all three of them. The middle one, the unified one, looks a little different from the other two, but I don't care. I'm not a belt guy. They mean nothing to me. They were acting all friendly here. Omega said they're going to leave it in the ring. He signed the contract. Omega signed it. Okada signed it. Okada shook hands with Omega and then did the pull in that they always do, and they have their words. But then Don Callis interrupted. Don Callis said that Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita should be in the match, just like he said backstage. And Kenny Omega told him to cut the shit. Omega said he knows all of Don Callis's tricks. And Callis said there's one that Omega doesn't know. And that's when Okada attacked Omega from behind. I kind of want to say stupid babyface Kenny Omega. Well, I kind of do, because Okada, did he really ever turn babyface? Like, he's always been a heel in AEW. So why would Omega all of a sudden trust this guy? I guess he has respect for him or something and thought maybe Okada was turning a new leaf. I don't know. But I had a little bit of a hard time believing that Omega would just turn his back to Okada like that. Kind of a stupid babyface. But yeah, they did the beatdown. Okada had a baton that Don Callis provided and hit Omega in the abdomen with it. And then they brought out a stretcher for Omega. Okada continued the attack, came off the top with a flying elbow, and then he hit Omega one more time with the baton. And at this point, Omega was coughing up blood. He's got the white shirt on, of course. He's coughing up blood. I kind of like this angle. I thought it was well done. Maybe the best heel work for Okada in his AEW career. And him and Don Callis left. So I guess Okada has left the Elite and he's now part of the Don Callis family. Whatever. They fled in a speeding car. And that was the end of the Dynamite portion of the show. Shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $5 super chat. Says, do you think that this leads to a Takeshita face turn? And rest in peace, Brian Wilson. First of all, very, very sorry to hear about Brian Wilson. I was a huge Beach Boys fan for many years growing up as a kid. My dad would play the Beatles, play the Beach Boys, play the Four Seasons. We do these road trips along the coast, and I'm still a Beach Boys fan. So very sad to hear about that. He was 82. Beach Boys, one of the best musical acts of all time, in my opinion. Check out Pet Sounds if you've never heard that album. Great album. Just a great catalog in general. But regarding Takeshita, I mean, yeah, I would not mind seeing that at this point. Obviously, Kyle Fletcher is going to be a heel for the foreseeable future. Now they got another person in the Don Callis family. Does kind of feel like they're NWO, because keep in mind, they are like the NWO because they got their A team. They got Takeshita, Fletcher, and now they got Okada. Then they got their B team. They got, the guys like Vincent and Stevie Ray from the NWO. They got, Brian Cage and Lance Archer and what's his name? Rocky Romero. They got those guys too. Ridiculous. And speaking of Fletcher, we had Kyle Fletcher versus Anthony Bowens. So bye-bye Anthony Bowens push, whatever. Although they did have a competitive match, I will say. Adam Cole Bebe was on commentary. And we got the Scissor Me Daddy chants, even though Bowens isn't really doing that anymore. Lance Archer was out there. He attacked Billy Gunn, and Anthony Bowens, stupid baby face, although I guess he was concerned for his mentor and friend. He got distracted, and Fletcher won with the Brain Buster. I know I was mentioning the Anthony Bowens push, but did they even really need the outside interference here? I mean, does Bowens really need to be protected that much? I don't know. Fletcher's the guy they're building up. He got the win here. No real surprise. We got a big match here. Well, not really a big match. Well, we got Eminem, the Maximum Models. We got Man, I forgot their names already. What were their names? The guy from Saudi Arabia, Mace and Mansoor. There you go. Yeah, they're out here right now. You know we're on Collision when we get these guys. And we got Mark Briscoe out there. Poor Mark Briscoe. He's out there on the fourth hour of this show now. Pretty much everyone's given up on watching at this point. You look at the numbers, they just keep plummeting as the show goes on. Again, I would take a risk. Test their drawing power. I'm going to say this right now. Test the drawing power of your top stars. Let's see how much of a draw they really are. Put your main event match on in the main event spot. I dare you, Tony Khan. Put Swerve in your main event at 11:30 Eastern time. I dare you. Do it. Stop booking all the good stuff in the first 2 hours. Don't even bother with a 4-hour show unless you're going to put your best stuff at the end. Make people stay up. Test their loyalty. I dare you, Tony Khan. Last segment I'm going to talk about here. I mean, we got something going on here with what's his name? I forgot his name. Forget about it. Let's get to this last segment I want to talk about real quick. So we had Carlos Cabrera in the ring, hyping up the Mexican show next week, the show in Mexico, and he brought out. So this was funny. He paused. He said, "I'm going to bring out pause," acting like this was some sort of a big deal. He brought out Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. Now, maybe if you're a fan of Lucha Libre and you're familiar with these guys, this was a big deal. I don't really know anything about them, so I'm like, okay. Then we had FTR and Stokely Hathaway coming out there. And we had a little verbal confrontation, and Stokely talked about how FTR turned Nigel McGuinness into a pill popper. And then we had an attack from FTR. Adam Cole, who had been out there on commentary, he made the save. Then the Don Callis family came out there. Then we had Bandito out there. We had Brody King out there. And the good guys ended up clearing the ring. So this was just setting up something for the Dynamite in Mexico. I didn't really care about it too much. And at this point, I'm like, okay, time to just get to the recap of the show. I've had just about enough. I've tapped out. And I've decided this is how they're doing it with Dynamite and Collision for these 4-hour blocks. They're going to book Dynamite like Dynamite. And then they're going to book Collision like Collision. Collision's the B show. They're not even going to try to retain viewers. They're just going to do their secondary matches. Oh, John Morrison and his wife are making out now. I mean, come on. Who's watching this? Who's watching this and like, man, this is the best wrestling show I've ever seen in my life? Who's saying that? But yeah, if you're going to do the 4-hour blocks, put your good stuff on later. Otherwise, don't do it. And I've just decided, now that I've seen a couple weeks of this, next time they do the 4-hour block, I'm just going to recap Dynamite. I'll do Dynamite at my usual time, 10:15 Eastern. Maybe I'll throw on Collision on the screen and comment on a few things, but that's going to be it. I'm definitely not doing these 4-hour blocks. I was considering it if they were actually going to put effort into the 4-hour shows, which they put in the effort into Dynamite, and they put all their secondary stuff in the second 2 hours. So it is what it is. Now, I will give my points for Dynamite. I'm judging it based off of the 2-hour block of Dynamite. I thought it was a good show. I mean, they did some solid angles. I wasn't the big fan of the time limit draw, but I did like the angle with the Death Riders and Hangman Page. The contract signing, I don't like the contract signings, but they did a good job with the angle. I like the coughing up of the blood from Omega. So there was some solid stuff. Hurt Syndicate was entertaining, although I don't really care about the Mystico match. MJF versus Sin Cara. I never thought, man, I really want to see MJF versus Sin Cara. Not once in my whole life did I ever think about that, or did it ever cross my mind. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was a good Dynamite overall, solid show, solid build up for the All In Texas. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it very much. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Stay tuned to the No DQ channel. I got a new episode of the No DQ Roundtable coming up, and a new episode of What? Wrestling's Hottest Audacious Takes. Those will be up in the coming days on the No DQ YouTube channel. Of course, the Friday Night SmackDown recap coming up. So stay tuned for all that. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. Thank you for sticking with me tonight. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.